Hello everyone and welcome to IT Ráno. This is the 17th IT Ráno of the year 2022 and I'm super happy to welcome you here on a little bit of showcase of a Power BI Masterclass that we have here at the GOPAS prepared for you. My name is Štěpán Rešl. I'm co-founder of a company called Data Brothers. I'm one of Microsoft's most valuable professional especially on Power BI, and I'm author of two blogs, one called Jak na Power BI, which is a Czech blog, only with Czech content, and second one, Data Meerkat, where you can find many very deep articles in English. I also help to run Czechoslovakia Power Platform user group, which is user group based over whole Power Platform. And also I'm doing Power BI Kafičko with another lecturer from GOPAS called Easy Neural. If you would like to reach me, you can find here two QR codes on my Twitter and on my LinkedIn. But let's stop with myself and let's jump into the process of how to build a Power BI, because we are here because of a Power BI and we would like to know how it works inside of that. If we would look on the whole process, preparing something inside the Power BI, preparing the report, the data set and other parts, every time it starts with a data import. Data import is a very critical part where we choose a data connector from what we would like to upload our data inside the Power BI desktop and to be able to prepare every possible transformation that we will need for our reports and dashboards. After we imported these data inside the Power BI, we can finally connect them, create relationships between our data and set the model that will be able to answer our questions. After import and connection, we can start building the calculations, because anytime when you will get your data, you will have to calculate some missing informations that should be inside data, but they are not, or calculate informations that are hidden inside your data. So in this part, it's very crucial to find out how to write DAX language, which is language called data analysis for expression. And it's pretty similar to a language that you can know from Excel, which is called formula language. And DAX can really help you because it's capable to find any answer that you need. And if you will find out how to write a DAX, it will be really helpful. Then, when you have everything calculated, you can go for visualizations, create your own charts, and prepare stunning visualizations that everyone would like to use. And after all of this is done, you can publish it into the Power BI service, which is a completely separate service from your PC. It's hosted on a cloud. And here you can set the security and access to the right people to be able to secure that only right people are able to get to these reports, dashboards, and all the stuff that you've prepared. And it's inside the Power BI service, which is a part of Microsoft ecosystem, and it's really secured and prepared to make quick answers anytime when you need and anywhere. So you can access your data from a mobile, from a tablet, or even from a notebooks, and sometimes even from your watches. It just depends on which one of them you're using. But do we really have to do all these steps again and again and again? No. you will done them just once. Why? Because after you will fulfill all these steps, Power BI will know what it should do. And then you can just hit the refresh button and all the imports, all the relationships, all the calculations and visualizations will happen for you. So after you will prepare your report, all the refreshes behind will happen when you want to. And you don't need to download data from scratch. You don't need to create relationships again or the calculation. Power BI will know your steps. And that's really helpful because you will do it once and it's forever, unless the data source will change. We know how it works. But let me divide these parts into our masterclasses because the whole chain of steps is pretty huge. So we separated it into two masterclasses. First, it's called Power Query Masterclass. Power Query Masterclass strictly focuses on a data import and a data connection to be able to provide you the guidance how to be preparing your transformations, how to utilize on a maximum the language called M, which stands inside the Power Query. And this language is not just inside the Power BI, but it's also inside the Azure Data Factory or inside Excel. And maybe one day we'll be able to see it even in more tools. So it's a very great language built especially for data transformation. So it would be great to know how to use it. Then, of course, inside the Power BI Masterclass, we're focusing on how to build a great relationships between the tables and which one we should use, why, and how to work with that, even with row-level security. Then the calculation, visualization, and sharing is covered by Reporting Masterclass. So if you would like to find, let's say, a little bit more deep information about this masterclass, you can use one of these QR codes. Or if you would like to know what else you can find inside the Power BI itself, you can go to the learning point to find one of these topics. Okay, but we are here for masterclass, don't we? So, Reporting Masterclass is focused for anyone who would like to master the Power BI reporting. So for anyone who prefers hands-on experience and highly interactive teaching style. Anyone who seeks the knowledge and real consultants with real project experience, because we are really the consultants that we are working on the projects every day, and we are not just teaching others. What will you learn exactly inside this masterclass is that you will find out how to structure the information into the report, because we're really focusing on something which is in point 3 called data storytelling techniques. So we will show you how to work with the colors, how to work with people focus, and how they read, and how to structure whole report to be able to deliver really awesome user experience and really readable reports very fast. For that, we're also teaching how to choose the right components of a Power BI, because there are lots of them, and not every should be used all the time. And let's say every single part or every single visual have its own purpose, how it should be used to be very easily readable. Then we will focus inside this reporting masterclass on advanced DAX calculations and advanced functionalities in Power BI service, how to use them to really utilize the Power BI service and make it so for you because it can deliver you lots of feedback and lots of information about your reports and can really help you with answers like, hey, is someone really using my reports, or have I done something wrong? Should I be focused on different groups, etc. The entry skills of this whole masterclass is a basic Power BI desktop course that can be found here on GOPAS. And the basic knowledge of a DAX and visualization Power BI desktop or Power BI service environment, because inside this masterclass, you're trying to really level up your DAX knowledge. So it's great to have some of them when you are coming here. But even if you will come without any DAX experience, DAX knowledge, we will teach you that. That's about the reporting. What about that Power Query? Power Query Masterclass is focused for anyone who wants to learn how to process their data professionally, how to prepare the transformations that will not fall on error, or if they fall on error, it will be on a purpose, because it should fall in some cases when you would really like to know that someone is messing up with your data, or how to download an APIs, and how to prepare your own functions that you are missing inside the Power Query. Also, it's for anyone who prefers hands-on experience and highly interactive teaching styles, again. And for anyone who sees the real consultants with real project experience. I've already told you what you will learn inside this masterclass, but I've missed a few points. We're trying to teach you how to think about the Power Query in the concept of whole Microsoft ecosystem architecture, because I told you that it's part of Excel, Azure Data Factory, Power BI, but I didn't mention that it's also inside the Power Apps, Power Automate, and maybe it will be one day in even more applications, and would be very great to know when to go to use a Power Query and for what. Also, we're focusing on integrating and passing the different data types, because you can get absolutely large amount of different styles. And it's really great to find out how to be transforming and cleaning them and be able to prepare the right model that should be served for Power BI to be able to quickly deliver your reports and without necessary of writing very complex DAX measures. Also, we're focusing on solving the errors and issues, and how to handle them and how to use them for for delivering more information that they are delivering yet. Also, we are focusing on the data gateways that are here for ability to extract the data from on-premise data sources, and how to use them even when you're building a custom connector. Because if you would like to refresh your custom connector inside the Power BI service, you will definitely need data gateway. Entry skills are mostly the same like as previous masterclass, and it's because we would like to teach you from scratch that things, because it will really help you to understand how the things works. So again, it's a basic course of Power BI desktop and basic knowledge of Power Query, DAX, and Power BI service itself. And I think that's all from this part. And I think we all here because we would like to see how this part, how this masterclass can look like. So I prepared for you part of Power Query Masterclass. So let's jump on it. I've selected for you the part about how to be able to download data from the API. But many people don't know what API really is, and it's not necessary. You don't need to know exactly what is API and how exactly it works, but it's great to understand the basic concepts. So let me introduce you my friend waiter called API that would like to welcome us into his restaurant. And inside this restaurant, we are customer, and we receive the menu. And on the menu, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4 points: meals, drinks, payment, and post feedback. Wait a minute. Under the meals, we can see 2 more points: get a list of meals and get a meal. Wait a minute. I'm hungry. I would really like to eat, so I want to get a meal, even when I don't know which meals are preparing in this restaurant. So, hey, API, please, can you give me a meal? No, sorry, but you have to specify what meal you would like to. Okay, but we don't know what meals you're serving. So let me try it once again. And for now, don't ask about to get a meal, but get list of meals. API, can you get me a list of meals? Yeah, of course. And he will run from you to the chef, ask him what do they have on the menu for today. Chef will generate the list of the meals that they are preparing for today, which is burger, pizza, and risotto. And API as a waiter will come back to us and bring us this list. So finally, we know which meals are prepared in this restaurant. Wonderful. So let me a little bit change the previous question that we had on a waiter. And now let's ask him for a meal risotto. So, hey API, I would like the meal risotto. Is that okay? He just smiled and went for a chef again. Chef prepared risotto, give it to API, and API bring us our risotto. So, okay, it really works. So it looks like that if we would like to get something, we would need to specify, especially for this ask something what we want to. But also we can see that there are some questions that are really generic and doesn't have any parameter inside, like get list of meals. And this list of meals specify for us what we can ask in another call. So when you will be working with APIs, many times you will need to be chaining your asks to be able to get your answers. Like in this case, we will need to ask for a list of meals, then ask for exact meal to finally be able to eat. And what about if we would like to pay? If I would go for payment, I can see 2 more options here: get a bill and post payment. If I would know how much it cost, that risotto, I can pay it directly, but I don't know. They didn't tell me how costly it was. So, hey API, can you get me a bill? Yeah, of course. And in this case, he's not running to a chef, but to a cash register, where will the bill be generated, and API will return with amount that we should pay. Okay, so API doesn't every time have to be talking with just one backend, but can be talking even with more. And he's preparing, let's say, the interface for us application programming interface, which is shortcut from API. And this interface is preparing for us answers from different type of softwares, from different databases. It can be calling very complex structures to be able to get the answers, but we don't want to know about them. We have just simply asks that we use for generate these returns. So now we got a bill and we can post a payment. We will exactly take from our pocket the money and give it to the waiter as a content. So once we've done it, he will take it, run to the cash register, check if the balance is a 0, and if yes, he will wait on us that everything is fine and we can finally leave. And this was just an example how the API works, but it's mostly everything that you need to know now. I said mostly, yeah, okay. If you would like to test any API, you can do it many different ways. I prefer using software called Postman, which is very handy and very easy to use for these tests. You can set up here the type of a call, if it's get, post, put, patch, delete, etc. Every time it's declared inside the documentation of API which type of call it is. Then the address itself that we are using, the headers if it's necessary, and the content. These parts are the most commonly used, and let's say, okay, we can say it's all that's necessary to be able to communicate with any API. But can we all of them prepare inside the Power Query? Yes. Type of a call is a little bit limited. Inside the Power Query, we can do a get call, which is absolutely native call that we are using. Then the post call, which will be automatically used after you will set up a body of a call, which means the content of a call. And even if you will be sending the blank content, but you will specify that, then Power Query will switch from a get to the post. So we don't have others like a delete, patch, etc. But at least we have get and a post type. And mostly it's all what we need, especially when we would like to get data. Then the address, where we can a little bit divide the address into 3 parts. Into the base, relative part, and a query. Base is a main part of a URL against which one will Power BI set the authentication. And it should be static URL that will not be changing. Then we added the relative path, which is dynamic part of a URL that can be changed meanwhile in a query. So it should be separated from a base path to be able to set the authentication about the base. And then the query, if it's necessary or if we will need that. So the HTTP query that is set up behind the question mark in the URL. Also inside the Power Query, we can set the headers, which is a part of the URL that will be sent. Oh, sorry, it's not a part of the URL itself. It's a part of a call that will be sent with the URL, and also then the content. The headers itself are the records that or it's a record that should contain all the attributes that are necessary for our call. And content is really the body of a call that we would like to send. And this content every time has to be sent as a binary type. So if we will be sending some JSON, we will have to convert it into the binary, but we can do this all inside the Power Query. And if any API would have any authorization, then mostly it will be one of these authorizations. It will be without the authorization. Yeah, it can be some APIs are completely without any authorization, but it's not really common. Then the API key can be used as authorization. The user and password name and the password, which is mostly called as a basic authentication. And then we have the access tokens. Access tokens are very, very used these days for secure communications, especially as a part of the OAuth 2 protocols. And if you're using Microsoft technologies, SharePoint, Teams, etc., you're communicating with this SharePoint with the OAuth 2 protocol. So you're using that every single day, but maybe you just didn't know that. Sorry. But let's jump into the demo and try to download some data from the API on our own, shall we? Okay. So we are inside the Power Query, where I already prepared one token, which is a parameter with a key that we will be using to be receiving the data from the News API. News API is API which is really wonderful if you would like to test something, because it's completely free for developers. You can set your own developer account, and after that, you will receive your API key that you use to be able to receive data from their endpoints. So let's test it out. I'm inside the documentation, and here inside the documentation, I'm in a part of authentication, because once you have an API key, you need to know how to provide it inside the communication with the API. And this one has 3 different options. First, that can be used as a query part inside the URL. The second part, that it can be sent via HTTP header by XAPI key parameter, or by authorization parameter. So let's start with the header called XAPI. But I didn't mention what type of data we will be receiving. News API contains the data about the news all around the globe, and it can return to you literally everything what it just knows now, or just the top headlines. So let's jump into the top headlines and try to get these. As you can see here in live examples, the result will look like a status, total results, how many top headlines it found based on country US. It's not written here that it's required, but yeah, this parameter is really required, and without setting a country, it will not work. And then inside the articles, you can find the source of these articles and author, title, description, and URL for exact article that will be returned. Some information about when it was published, and some part of a content and how many charts other charts are inside, and other articles. So it would be really great to be able to download these data to test it out. So, okay, I will jump back into the Power Query, create a new query, new blank query, and open the advanced editor. Inside the advanced editor, I will remove this part and I will use web.contents function. Right? Yes, content function. This function works like caller for a web. And this is the function that you will need to be able to receive data from your API, because first parameter, which is URL, is our base URL. Then we can set the options as a nullable records. So we will prepare the records and we will push here inside the web contents our URL that will be newsapi.org v2. I told you it's a base URL that will not be changed, and it can be for us very usable when we would like to set authentication against whole news API org and then just be providing other parts of the URL. So, yep, other part will be representative by relative path, where we can set this part, yep, top headlines, and we will not be taking the country. We even don't want to use this backslash. So we will just take the top headlines and drop it into the relative path. We're not using the backslash because when Power BI will be combining base URL, relative path, it will use the backslash between them. So we don't need to provide it. Then we will set the query part, which is the HTTP query. And I've mentioned that query part is the part behind the question mark inside the URL. So in our case, we will not be using the API key here like that, but we need to set up the country US. So I will copy paste it into the query. And I will just set US as the text, and I will let country be as it is because now it's used as a parameter. And again, we're not using the question mark because between base URL and relative path, Power BI will add the backslash, and between query and any previous part, it will automatically add the question mark, so we don't need to provide it. And after that, we can set up our headers, which is also the record. And here we will need to set our authentication. So I will go back for the authentication, grab the X API key, went back into the Power Query, and it sounds like Power Query doesn't like this identifier because if we will be only using the letters and no special marks or white spaces, it will work. But once we have a special chars inside it, we will have to say that this is exact name. And we're doing it by a hashtag previous that it has to be before starting with that string. So X API, and I will call the parameter called AP key, and finally I can hit done. We've received the answer, but this answer means that answer is inside the JSON file. So we've received the JSON. So, okay, let's a little bit modify that, like a JSON.document to be able to extract data from the answer. And now we can see that we've received status OK. So we've received our data, 36 results and then the list of articles. And to be able to get these data from the articles, we would like to receive the list. So let's jump into the advanced editor again. And I will create another step called table. In this moment, I will just use our source, and I will call the articles from the responses. As we can see here, it's inside the record type, and record type can be called by their namespaces to return the data. So after the source, I will declare that I would like to get the articles. I will return the table as a result, and now we have a list. Now we don't have a record, we have a list of records, but we want data. And if I will click next to the record, not so inside inside this part, not clicking on the record itself, I can see inside the preview our data. And thanks to that, I can start extract this data. And I can do it by transforming to table and then extracting one by one, extracting all the columns, or I can do it all in just one step. And let me show you how it works, because this is something that I'm really focusing inside the masterclass on show you how things should be done properly to prepare the fastest transformation as possible. So I will declare the hash table to create the table itself. I will create it as a type table with columns called source, author, title, description, URL, URL to image, published at, and content. As you can see, I've just write these names directly inside these square brackets. And if I would like to, I can also set here their data types. So if I would like to, I can set here that it will be the record, this will be a text, this will be a text, etc. So I can pre-declare the data types of our answers. So I will set it up for everyone. Published at will be date time, and the content is once again the text. And after declaring the columns and the data types, I will need to get our list and a little bit transform it. So list dot transform initial list, and then our transformation, which will be done for each item in a list. So each, sorry, we don't have now that much time for explain why I'm doing here these brackets, but in the masterclass we are doing it, we're working with them quite heavily. So now I will be just calling from one part to another our prepared parts of the URL, or sorry, of the records. And I'm using here the strange question mark. The question mark help us because API is not every time returning all the data, and sometimes they're returning just attributes that they have. And if they don't have any attribute, then it will fall into the error. And based on this question mark. If the attribute is missing, it will give us at least the null value, so the missing value, but not an error. And if we have everything, I will just transform this to the date time from, and I will hit it done. And yes, full hour table has been created. And just on 2 steps, we were able to get the data from an API and prepare from that our table with exact data types. We can call it top headlines. And we've done. Inside the masterclass, we are discussing about what's list transform, how it works, how it can help us, and how every single part of this code works, and how it can be modified and what can be added inside. So I think it's all from the demo. Thank you so much for being here. If you would like to go on any masterclass or find a little bit more information about them, here you can have, here you have the QR codes. Thank you so much for attending this IT Ráno, and I will be super happy to see you on one of these masterclass. Thank you so much for your time and enjoy rest of the day.